working till the ballots close, but the coalition still hasn't confirmed whether or not it will support the current Close the Gap targets. The peak body for Indigenous health, NACCHO, is calling on the Liberal and National parties to make their position clear.
At the moment, there hasn't been a lot of detail, but we do know that they are supporting Close the Gap, and we're really looking for that detail to come out from the coalition over probably the next few days leading up to the election.
There is very clear bipartisan support from the two major parties on other issues, for example the Empowering Communities Project for policy guidance and constitutional recognition of Indigenous people. But Helen Zoki, the head of Oxfam, says Indigenous health needs to be a bigger priority in this campaign.
What we're concerned to ensure is that we don't lose sight of the importance of focusing on health inequalities, and we don't lose sight of the fact that this should not become a political issue. It's one that should continue to have bipartisan support and funding ultimately to support it.
Indigenous people have some of the worst health outcomes of any group in the country. According to the Institute of Health and Welfare, there's a life expectancy gap of around 16 years between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. Justin Mohammed says the most important thing is we start to reduce that gap.
The Close the Gap targets were signed off in a statement of intent by Kevin Rudd in 2008 and also by the opposition as a bipartisan agreement, and those targets were developed by a whole number of people working in Aboriginal health. So we believe those targets are still very relevant.
The Coalition has committed to bringing in an Indigenous Advisory Council and a review of all current services if they're elected next weekend. Brooke Boney, NITV News, Canberra.